Morning, everyone, and very, very warm welcome. Thank you, everyone, for showing up even after a great party last night. I am actually very pleasantly surprised after seeing all of you. My name is Anand Yadav, and I'm a program manager in the Azure Identity team. I've been with Microsoft for now 8 years, and during this whole tenure of 8 years, I joined as a software development engineer in Active Directory on premises, and I've been with the Azure Identity team for the last 3 years. So in today's session, what we are going to try and do is have a conversation going as to how you can think about your hybrid authentication infrastructure and make it more reliable, and also ensuring that it is more secure from an operational perspective, and still making sure that your users are productive and can access the resources as and when needed. So the first part of any story of accessing the resources is choosing the right sign-in. Now, if we were having this discussion around 2 or 3 years back, it was a very black and white choice. You would either just choose password hash synchronization, or you would go for federation, because federation gave you the single sign-on capability. Most of the enterprise customers, they chose federation at that time. However, things have dramatically changed in the last 2-3 years, and we have added so many new capabilities for sign-in. So let's take a look as to how you can think about choosing the right sign-in for your organization. So the first choice is, of course, password hash synchronization. And just to begin with, and dispelling a common myth that this involves syncing your passwords to the cloud, it does not. Only the hashes of the passwords are synced to the cloud. And this is a very fast way to get started with your cloud infrastructure. And you can select this option in Azure AD Connect. All the users will be able to use their username and password to log in. And now it also has seamless SSO capabilities that you can configure straight away from Azure AD Connect. The next option is pass-through authentication, and this is termed on the cloud authentication side. However, a part of it reaches down back to your on-premises environment. So if you do not want your password hashes to be synchronized to the cloud, this is the option that you can use. In this option, what happens is that when the user wants to do a sign-in the cloud, the Azure would reach back to your on-premises environment via a secure channel and actually do the authentication against your domain controllers. So your authentication is still happening on premises as might be required. Now, the third option that we know is quite popular with our enterprise customers, that's federation. And in that, ADFS is a very popular choice for very obvious reasons, because it has so many options to choose from for authentication. You can use username, password, that's one thing. You do get single sign-on, and then certificates, smart card authentication, etc. And we are going to focus our discussion today around ADFS and scenarios around it. Now, why focus around ADFS is because we have over 71 million active users who use ADFS to sign into Azure on a monthly basis. Now, that's a huge number, and put it into perspective of all the federated users that sign into Azure, that accounts around 82% of the total users, federated users. So, having talked about choosing the right sign-in method, the next step that comes in is to ensure a highly available authentication infrastructure. Now, just a very quick rundown of what your normal ADFS scenario looks like is this is your typical ADFS deployment. Of course, not in that simplistic term that you just put 2 ADFS and 2 VAPs. But overall, this is what it is. A user, if they want some access to the application redirects to ADFS, and you get the access token, and you're good to go. But let's think about the scenario where this can go wrong and you lose connectivity to your on-premises resources for whatever reasons. And in that scenario, if the user tries to go and access the resource, he will not be able to do so. Now, how to make sure that this does not impact the productivity of your users? One of the options that you might be thinking is, yes, we can just go ahead and make it, more redundant in deployment, and I'll deploy more sets of ADFS and web servers on my different locations in the organization. That's certainly a possibility. However, we are seeing more and more customers adopt a new approach to this, and that is moving their ADFS infrastructure to Azure to some extent. And let's take a look as to how you can do that. So instead of putting additional ADFS and web boxes on your on-premises location, what you can do is you can put your ADFS and web boxes in Azure, and then have the connectivity between your on-premises and Azure via various mechanisms that you can choose, that is VPN, ExpressRoute, et cetera, and have an Azure Traffic Manager in between the two points. Now, this will give you the flexibility of choosing whatever way that you want the performance to be defined using the Azure Traffic Manager profile, and still get the same highly available authentication infrastructure. And it's very easy to scale this to other data centers. So if your organization is one of those which is really distributed across the globe, and you're worried that, oh my God, there's only one set of servers probably in one region, what about the users in the Far East region? You can very easily replicate this using template in the other data centers. In fact, the guidance that we have on aka.ms/ADFS in Azure, it has a template that you can use to get started. And in this scenario, the user is going to be pretty happy because whenever you want to access a resource, the thing is they will be redirected back to the Azure Traffic Manager endpoint, and it takes the decision where to route it based on the profile settings that you have configured. So having selected the sign-in method and ensuring that, yes, your authentication infrastructure is a highly available one, that's step one of securing your access to your cloud resources in a reliable manner. Now let's talk about the various aspects of securing your resources on an operational and an admin access and a user access basis. So the first thing is operations that we are going to talk about here, and in that, the first recommendation here is to go and start using Connect Health. Now, Connect Health is a cloud service that can help you get critical insights into your on-premises infrastructure. Right now, Connect Health is available for your sync, ADFS, and ADDS infrastructure on premises. That gives you a very clear advantage to be one step ahead and keep track of what's happening in your infrastructure. For example, you can create critical alerts of notifications that can come straight to your inbox for situations like, hey, I want to be notified when the particular CPU usage goes above this particular threshold, and other failures that can be triggered, that can be detected by Connect Health service, and then the alert notifications can be triggered. So this ensures that you are always on top and there's no downtime for your infrastructure there. The next is audit logs. Sometimes we have seen that audit logs, for whatever reasons, were not enabled by default. And when we start working with the customers and an incident has happened and say, okay, let's go through the audit logs. And they're like, okay, let's enable it now. Well, now does not help, right? So let's get into this habit of having the audit logs enabled at the right level always, so that you can fall back and trace back to the events that led to the incident. And of course, locking down the network. So we have to start thinking about our ADFS boxes in the same manner when it comes to giving access to the boxes like we think about our domain controllers. It's a strict no-no to expose the ADFS to internet for obvious reasons. We have WAP in order to help get the traffic in the right manner to ADFS and not expose it to the internet. The next aspect is going around the admin access to the resources. If you have attended Nitika's session, you would be aware of why we are trying to enforce this message. But it's really a sad statistic at this time that we have only about 4% admin accounts that are enabled with MFA. Now think about the impact that this has on the security aspect for your organization. All the attacker needs to do is be able to get hold of your username and password of an account, and that's about it. And then they have a clear access to your resources. It can be done via phishing, password spray attacks, and brute force attacks. And and attackers are getting smarter day and day. They are getting more sophisticated in their attacks, and it's becoming easier to get into accounts which don't have MFA. Privileged access workstations, all the sensitive operations in your organization done by administrators should be done only via privileged access workstations, which are really locked down versions of of the machines, where you have OS settings configured in a manner to have very restricted access to the internet, and also what goes on the machine is tightly controlled by the IT administrators. The last thing that I wanted to touch base on the admin access is the privileged identity management, super critical. We have seen in some scenarios where there are admin accounts which have been lying there for whatever reasons, and no one has an idea when it was created and why it was created. And now it's a situation like, oh, we don't want to remove this. We don't know what scenario we are going to break now. So privileged identity management is your solution to that. You should totally move towards privileged identity management, because what it gives you the ability is that you can give the right set of access to the person who needs to do an operation that requires administrative privileges, but only and only for that particular operation and that particular duration of time in which it is required. After that, it's going to automatically lapse, and therefore you don't have to worry about managing the administrative access in this long run, and it's really dynamic. But of course, anything, if we are talking about security, we have to take into account the users and how they access your resources. So the first thing that I'm going to mention here is the extranet lockout, or extranet smart lockout, that now it is known in ADFS 2016 and later. So extranet lockout was a feature that we introduced in ADFS 2012 R2, where you had the capability of shutting down the access from extranet if, in case one of your users is getting attacked using brute force attack. But we improved the capabilities of this feature in 2016 and further in 2019, where it's now smart in taking a decision so that it only blocks the attacker and your user still remains productive throughout. Then is, of course, MFA for external access. So any external access for the users should be accompanied by MFA. I think we have emphasized enough on this. But the real defense against your brute force attack and the password spray attacks comes with stronger passwords. Obviously, we want you to move towards a passwordless solution as soon as possible. But we all know that due to practical implications, that's a little far away. So we have to think about how we can secure our passwords till that time we move away from passwords eventually. And that's where having stronger passwords come in. And Azure AD Password Protection can help you there. So in today's session, what we are going to talk about is Connect Health. We are going to take a deeper look into it, how it can provide you an edge when you're working against attackers who are trying to brute force your users, and then also see a demo of extranet smart lockout in action, and then have a discussion around Azure AD Password Protection as to how it can help you. So let's begin with the extranet smart lockout. Okay, so I'm going to switch the machine. So it's really easy to configure the extranet smart lockout on your ADFS box. I have a ADFS 29 infrastructure here. I'm going to go through some of the settings that you can set using the set ADFS properties here. Just so that everyone is able to see this. So some of the key settings that you see here are the extranet lockout threshold. That is the threshold for unknown locations, the authentication requests coming from unknown locations. And then now you have another threshold that you can specify for known locations. So for example, you want to give the users the benefit of the doubt if the authentication is coming from a location from which the user had previously successfully logged in. So now you have separate thresholds for that. And then, of course, the extranet lockout enable that toggles the feature on and off. And then extranet lockout mode. Right now, it's in the smart lockout enforce. And the extranet observation window, 30 minutes. Now, the banned IP list is a new feature in 2019 ADFS, where you can specify a set of IPs for which you want ADFS to just drop the request there and then, no processing whatsoever. So now you don't have to go anywhere else. You can just set this configuration within your ADFS. And if the authentication requests are coming from this particular, this particular set of IPs, it will just drop it there. Now, I have a rogue machine here. And this is not a very sophisticated attacker. A very poorly written partial script. I don't know who wrote it, not me. So here you can see that we are trying to just randomly guess a password against 2 or 3 users here. Let's try and see if I use the authentication. If I try to authenticate from here, am I able to authenticate? So right now I'm in the Claims X-ray application on ADFSL. By the way, a super helpful portal for diagnosing and troubleshooting all your ADFS issues. Should give it a try. So here I click on test authentication, and this is my user, right? And what you're seeing is the beautiful paginated flow in ADFS 2019. Okay. So you'll have to take my word for it that I'm typing in the right password here and not getting the access. But on my machine here, I have accessed the resources earlier, so ADFS knows. And how you can check that is I can see the information that ADFS collects for my account. So get ADFS account activity, Mickey Mouse, right? So it can show me that from the unknown location, I have been logged out. My familiar IPs from where I had logged in earlier is this, right? And the bad password count unknown is 6. And as we saw in the properties, my threshold was 5. That's why I've been logged out from the external locations. So this is a known location from which I had authenticated earlier. Again, I'm going to use the Claims X-ray app and try to authenticate using the same user. This is what happens when you don't pray to the demigods. Nope. Okay. Did my IP change? Okay. That is why, for whatever reasons, I have a new IP, and so this is also being considered as an unknown location. Let me get to a known location that we know. So this is another machine which is actually should have the same IP still. So I'm going to Claims X-ray. We are going to do Okay. Come on, Mickey Mouse. Okay. So that's what happens. Okay, so you can see, so this was a, thank you. So this was a known location, and we can see our IP here. Right, so the public IP of this server is the 209 entry that you were seeing here, and that's why, so ADFS already knew this location, and therefore the authentication went through while blocking the external one. Okay, now with that exciting demo, we get back to our presentation for more. Okay, now let's talk about how to use Connect Health and stay ahead with your ADFS infrastructure. So just to quickly go through some of the salient features, and then we will get into the demo of how you can get more information around a brute force attack that might be happening in your organization. So the first and foremost thing is that Connect Health lets you continuously monitor the health of your infrastructure. At one glance, you can figure it out whether any one of the servers needs any attention or not, and that's super important. And then critical alerts, email notifications. So what Connect Health does is it keeps a regular diagnostic test going on your infrastructure for all the ADFS boxes, all the WAP boxes on which it is installed. And if there is any anomaly that is detected, it can alert you with that notification that, yes, this is the particular issue that is happening in terms of this is the test that we executed, and even give you the relevant resolution steps that, hey, this is what we want you to go ahead and do to resolve this issue. Then another feature that is heavily used by our customers is the analytics on the application. So you can figure it out as to which all applications are being used heavily in your organization, which are not being used, and probably you can start a conversation that whether it's even worth it to keep it still configured in your ADFS. And then performance trend analysis, it gives you almost real-time analysis of your ADFS and WAP boxes, what is the CPU usage, what is the memory usage, and any kind of anomaly you can easily visualize between the different servers and figure out, oh my God, there's something wrong going on the network, and then take appropriate action before the whole authentication goes down. Then bad password attempts report, very critical. It can give you the top users which are really impacted with the bad password attempts. And in a very quick fashion. And then the risky IP report. So this is the latest feature that we have added to Connect Health. And what it can give you is that it will give you a comprehensive view that from a particular IP, how many user accounts were being tried to get access to. So if obviously there are more than one or two user accounts being attempted from a particular location, that's highly unlikely that it's a valid user. So you can then quickly take action, and from the report, you can see the IP from where the attack is coming. And in 2019, you can actually just go to the ADFS settings and set that IP in the banned IP list, and that's it. You're done. Now, let me quickly switch over and show you the Connect Health dashboard in action. Right? So this is my Azure AD tenant landing page. And as you can see, so I'm an ADFS admin, so I want to see this information as much as possible in a quicker manner. So I have created this dashboard. Here you can see the first thing that I'm seeing here is there are no active alerts, so that's a good thing. All my servers are in a healthy state. The next thing is it gives you an overview of the federation service that it is being monitoring. And I can see here it is on 2 ADFS servers, and then federation proxy there's one federation proxy here. And these are my top application visits in the past 24 hours. So the top one, of course, the logins to the Microsoft Online, and then some other applications that I have. Now, the thing that is worrying me right now is, okay, I have a most recent triggered risky IP notification here, and I can see there is was an unusual uptick in the activity from extranet yesterday, and then it went higher and stayed on a constant basis from the usual. So I'm going to go and see whether the risky IP report has something for me. Okay, so here I can see that from this IP address, that was the IP address of our rogue machine, and that I'm constantly getting pounded by the user request and trying to get access to the accounts. So the unique users attempted, 3 users were attempted, and this is the IP address, this is the time, and this is super helpful in getting quickly to the right information that you need to stop the damage from happening. And if you want more information, there is more related information in the report that you can download, and it will give you a CSV format of the information that you need. Here, the notification settings, you can set up the email notifications that I was talking about, and the notifications here that you can set it is for new alerts if there is a new IP that is detected, and also if you want, you can get notification alerts on an hourly basis if a particular threshold is exceeding the limits that you have set. And the thresholds you can easily set from here, and my current threshold is pretty low. So for just 10 bad passwords per day and then per hour. So these are the 2 thresholds that you can set out. Okay. So now that we have seen from an operation perspective and how you can stay ahead and how you can use ADFS 2019 to actually block access to the rogue actors. Now let's talk about how to ensure that users are using more stronger passwords, because honestly, that's the best defense against these attacks. Why does it matter? 1.29 billion authentications that were risky were blocked in August itself, right? And 81% of the data breaches that happen that are successful, they happen due to weak, default, or stolen passwords. And this is just going back to the fact that the attackers are getting smarter and they are using contextual information and more sophisticated methods to attack now. Coming to the contextual information, so this is how it looks like. So as human beings, we want to remember our passwords for obvious reasons, and therefore we try to use words that are more related to what we are doing. Now, password, clearly in whatever form that you can think of, replacing a O with a 0 is not a very strong password. And we have seen that people still use passwords which are more on the seasonal basis, because that coincides with when your organization is trying to say, go change your password. Well, the fall is here, so I'm going to use fall 2018 or something like that, right? Easy passwords that we can remember. And of course, everyone loves their football team, so if the attacker knows the area that you are in, then I can clearly attack basis on that. For example, if the attacker is trying to go after someone who is in Seattle, go Hawks, not a very secure password no matter what you do. Before and after that, it's easily guessable. And the company context is more often used than you would think. That is using the company name or the founder's name in the passwords. That's not a very good strategy. So let's see how Azure AD Password Protection can help you here. So Azure AD Password Protection, the whole feature is powered by the billions of authentication attempts, the rogue authentication attempts that we see on a regular basis. So what we do is we develop an analysis on that. We figure out the patterns, and then we create a global list of those weak strings that the attackers are using on a regular basis, so that all the password changes that are happening and go through Azure AD Password Protection, we make sure that they do not contain those weak strings at all. Now, we just talked about, well, that's fine, that's just on a global level, but now where's the contextual information particular to your organization? How can you do that? Now, Azure AD Password Protection not just uses the Azure Power because there's some information that is unique to you. You can go ahead and provide a list of strings that you think are weak from your organization's perspective, right? So for example, if I have a company, Contoso, that makes footballs, then I can just say Contoso football and some other strings like that in the list. And what Azure AD Password Protection is going to do is whenever it will evaluate the strength of a password which is trying to use, then we will take into consideration both the global list and your organization's custom list that you have provided, and then do the strength check against this string. Now, a lot of our customers are not on the highway to cloud. We understand that, and therefore it's going to be a long time where we still have a lot of password change operations happening on premises on domain controllers. So what's the solution for those customers? We now have Azure AD Password Protection available for your on-premises environment also. It's a very simple setup that you can put on your domain controllers, and you are ready to go in a very few clicks. Is this really helping? Well, this is what we found. So anywhere from 20% to as high as 52% of the passwords were detected as weak passwords and prevented by Azure AD Password Protection. We worked with our customers who collaborated throughout the preview phase, and these are the numbers straight from those environments. So it's clearly helping, and it's actually an eye-opener when you first put it in your environment and see what's going on, what's the scale of weak passwords that are prevalent in your organization. Now, let's take a look as to how all of this is made possible. So Azure AD Password Protection, first of all, everything starts with a password change. And when a password is changed, it goes through password protection logic. The first thing that we do is we try to mimic the thinking of the attacker. That is, they know that your organizations usually have the password complexity rules, like have a number in the password and have a special character. And what do we do? Because we try to comply with those rules is we will change O to 0, 1 to exclamation mark, or I to exclamation mark. So those kind of transformations are not helping, so we normalize the string. And after we have normalized the string, that is when we go ahead and do a randomization check to figure out how random is the password, what's the score that we can give it to. So after it goes through the algorithm, it gets a score, and if it meets the particular threshold, then and only then it can go ahead and be accepted, otherwise it is rejected. A quick rundown for people who are really interested in how this is going to work on premises. Is it really going to impact my network configuration? So one thing that we made sure is that there should be no internet connectivity required from the domain controllers. It's a strict no, and we understand that. So the domain controller agents that you put on your DCs, they are pretty lightweight. The installation is also very simple. Download the MSI. Within like 3 or 4 clicks, you're done. No commands to be executed, nothing, and no internet connectivity required at all. Now, how do they talk to the internet? You can deploy some proxy agents. They're very lightweight proxy agents you can deploy on any server that has internet connectivity and line of sight to at least one domain controller. And then whenever the domain controller agents need any information, what they're going to do is they're going to reach out to the proxy agent. The proxy agent will then relay the information to Azure and get the required password policies from Azure down to your domain controller agents. You can always start. Now think about how to get started with it. You can always start in the audit mode. In this mode, the domain controller agents are going to start processing each and every password request that is coming to them. And they're not going to block in this mode, but they will log event logs, which will give you an idea why this password was blocked or why this would have been blocked. And then you can do analysis on that and then develop your education strategy that you want to drive to your users, and then move ahead and just flip the switch to enforce mode when you're ready. It's as easy as that, and we will see that in the demo now. Okay. So all the settings for Azure AD Password Protection, they are tenant-wide, so it's available under Azure Active Directory. And if you scroll down to the security section, there is authentication methods. Do I need to zoom in, or are you all able to see it properly? Okay. So here is the place where you can define all the settings for your Azure AD Password Protection. The first section is around custom smart lockout. More information, you can see the session that I and Rohini did on Tuesday. But let's focus on the settings for preventing weak passwords. So the custom list for your organization that we were talking about, that is what is enabled or disabled by this particular setting. You can toggle it to yes and then provide your particular strings that you want for your organization very easily here. The next section is what really determines, so before we move to that. So as you had noticed that there is nothing that you need to configure for the information that Azure uses on the global basis for Azure AD Password Protection, because it is available for all the tenants. And the password protection for Windows Server Active Directory. So this is the section which actually controls how your on-premises infrastructure is going to use it or not going to use it. The first toggle is basically an overall on-off switch. If you had selected it yes, then and only then, the on-premises agents will be able to talk to Azure and get the password policies from Azure. And the mode is what we were just talking about, the audit and enforce mode. Right now, I have it in enforce mode, but you can start with audit mode. And when you're ready, you can come back to the portal and just easily flip it to enforce. That's all the change that you need to do. Save it, and I've already made all the changes, so I'm not saving. But save it, and that's all that you need to do. There's nothing that you need to go and configure on premises. Oh, I'm going to run some commands or something like that when you are making these changes. After you have deployed, there's nothing else that you need to do. The agents will pick it up. Now let's see it in action. So this is my ADFS update password portal. And what we are going to try and do is try and update the password of our famous user, Mickey Mouse. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to try and do is use a password that is easily guessable here. So you can see here it's fall 2018, and I expect it to go through, but it's going to be blocked, and we are going to see now in the event logs where you can find it. Okay, not a good resolution. Okay, so in the event viewer, you can go to the applications and service logs, and under Microsoft Azure AD Password Protection, go to the admin logs. And then let's refresh. Okay. Okay, the first information, here it is. Or did I disable it? Oh no. 638. Oh, it happened against the other domain controller that I have. Okay, let's try one more attempt and hope things will change. So in the custom list that you had seen, I had provided the strings as fab identity, Contoso, and Seahawks. So let's try and use one of those. So here is my old password. And then let's use fab identity, one bang. Right? So here you can see it's a relatively good password. I have a mix of uppercase, lowercase. There is a character in it. There is a special character. There's a number in it. There is a special character in it. And when you will try to submit this one also, then this is also going to fail. And let me quickly try and see if I can get to the other domain controller so that we can see it. Okay, so here, this one landed up here. So you can see here in the details, oh, okay. The user was rejected, the password change for the specific user was rejected because it did not comply with the Azure AD password protection password policy. And why it was rejected, you can go to the event ID here, 30002, and you can find more details. Well, the specific user, Mickey Mouse at fabidentity.com, was rejected because it matched at least one of the tokens present in the per tenant password list of the Azure AD password policy. So not only we log that, yes, it was impacted by the Azure AD password policy, you can get a view whether it was your per tenant policy that was really effective or the global password policy that was really effective in blocking the user. So you can build whatever the tools that you use currently for analyzing your logs, you can keep track of this. This feature is currently in preview. But with the GA that's coming up, we are going to give you an insights into the Azure portal itself so that you don't have to do the analysis here yourself. You will get the information in the portal as to how many users were impacted, which particular strings have been effective on the tenant policy, and how many people were being blocked by the Azure AD global password policy. Okay. I should change my morning routine and just add a prayer to the demagogues before I come here. Next time I'll keep track of that. But going forward, so I would just like to summarize here before we finish that. This is what we discussed on Azure AD Password Protection. This is a dynamic banning of passwords based on known bad patterns that is being done via the global list that we have. Clearly, you have seen that it is for your hybrid environments. And we have made it easy to be configured on secure no internet zone domain controllers. And you have a unified admin experience for both on-premises and your cloud. And of course, we support multi-forest environment also. And there is a high availability infrastructure. So right now, you can have two proxy agents per forest that you deploy it in. That's all, and I will be hanging around here to take any more questions that you guys have. Thank you.